It's almost 50 years since Robin Knox Johnston completed his pioneering non-stop solo circumnavigation of the world.
Day 312, about 25 past 3 on April the 22nd, and Robin Knox Johnston and Sue Haley have sailed non-stop around the world.
Nearly 3 decades later, the Clipper race was born. Sir Robin's concept was clear: sailing the world's toughest oceans in a circumnavigation around the planet. But not for an elite few. These would be everyday people with a thirst for adventure.
You know, life is for that, to take risks, to follow your dreams.
Now in the 11th edition of the biennial race, 700 participants from all walks of life, representing over 40 nationalities, will take on the challenge of dealing with whatever Mother Nature has in store. Battling the elements out on the world's greatest oceans, they will experience some of the toughest conditions imaginable. From hurricane-force winds to squalls that can knock a boat flat. From stifling heat to sub-zero conditions and the danger of possible injury.
If you could imagine taking a cheese wire and almost cutting down that line.
They must learn to live with strangers, sailing 24 hours a day for weeks on end. All within the confines of a 70-foot yacht in the middle of an ocean. 40,000 miles, 13 races, 12 identical yachts, 6 continents, one unique challenge. This is the race of their lives. Coming up, new crew undergo training for their round-the-world adventure. There's a spectacular race start from Liverpool. We meet a Uruguayan adrenaline junkie racing to his home country, and a young Caymanian looking for new challenges. The court of King Neptune convenes on the equator. Plus, an injury aboard one of the yachts forces a dramatic medical evacuation.
That night, our dream, it kind of fell apart. It felt like it did.
The Clipper race is a global series of 13 races between 6 continents over 11 months. Starting in England, the first race is a downwind roller coaster to Punta Del Este, Uruguay. Race 2 takes on the South Atlantic to South Africa, and then it's the infamous Southern Ocean sleigh ride. The Australia leg is split into 3, from Fremantle, including the iconic Sydney-Hobart race, ending in Airlie Beach before heading to the city of Sanya in China for the first time. Then it's north to a wintry Qingdao, before crossing the mighty Pacific Ocean to Seattle. The US coast-to-coast leg is 2 races via the Panama Canal up to New York. The final leg sees the fleet cross the Atlantic Ocean to Northern Ireland, then the last race back to Liverpool. There's a professional skipper on each identical Clipper race yacht. Their job is to hone skills and mentor the crews as they gain experience, following 4 weeks of world-class training.
The training program is essentially broken down into 4 separate parts. Level 1 training introduces everybody to the basic concepts they need to understand to operate one of these boats in an offshore environment. 40% roughly of the crew who we have on the race have never set foot on any kind of sailing boat before in their lives. We do have some crew with a lot more experience, but actually generally it's the crew who have very little experience that find it a little bit easier to adapt to our methods of operating the boat. And the objective on level 2 is really just consolidating everything they've learnt on level 1, but in an offshore environment. So the boat doesn't stop in the evenings, they're sailing in watch rotors. So level 1 and 2 go nicely hand in hand. But at level 3, it's really a case of introducing to the crew, this isn't just a cruise around the world, this is a race. And how can we make the boat go faster? How can we build on team performance and the team dynamics. We also introduced the spinnaker at that stage. They may have seen it once or twice in training before, but there's a very heavy spinnaker focus. Once the crew have been allocated to their individual teams and have been allocated a skipper, we have level 4 training where we get pretty much all 12 boats out on the water, and there's several days of going through emergency procedures and drills such as towing, fire, flooding, casualty evacuation, things like that. And then the final stage of that is normally a sort of 48-hour race around the English Channel where the teams can really start to pit themselves against each other, and it's the first opportunity they've had to sail on their boat with their skipper, with their teammates.
So what is it that makes people want to put their lives on hold and take up this challenge? Known as Nano, a man who has excelled at and relishes all types of extreme sports, he decided it was time to try something new and test his limits.
Since I graduated from university, I always looking forward to do all my dreams come true. So this was one of them, but it was really hard to see it because from the world sailing, it was like, who does these things? And then the opportunity appeared and I just grabbed it. When we heard that race was going to Punta del Este, my hometown, and there was no one from Uruguay to represent, and I thought it was a good opportunity to try it, and one day become a skipper and grab my friends, my family, if I aim to do it, and come with me along other tiny islands around the world. I love adrenaline. I think it's the best thing in the world, to feel the adrenaline in your veins, to take risks. You know, life is for that, to take risks, to follow your dreams. Sometimes you have to work harder, the cost of opportunity is bigger, but everything's possible if you just try.
It's April 2017, 4 months before race start.
Crew allocation, find out who our skippers are.
I'm so excited.
It's a big day for every Clipper Race crew member when they discover which team they will join, the skipper and who their teammates are going to be. So there is nervousness and excitement in equal measure at Portsmouth Guild Hall.
It's a big day for us Clipper racers. I come from Norway just for this occasion. And I'm really beyond excited.
It's our mass crew allocation day, so it's where we get as many crew together as we can, and they all gather in one place and we go through the race route, tell them exactly where they're going to be racing and the different ports and stopovers, and then we announce the skippers, and the big part of the day is the race crew allocation. So the crew members get to find out exactly which boat they're going to be on, who their skipper is, and who they're going to be sailing with.
With this 11th edition of the Clipper Race, a new team of professional skippers has been appointed to guide the amateur crews around the world. It's a painstaking selection process, which includes providing pre-race training before being appointed to lead their own teams in the race.
Shall we get on with it? Yeah. Right. Okay, each skipper's going to come out, they're going to read the first half of their team, they're going to sit back down, it just keeps the suspense. So I hope you've all got your lucky pants on. I have.
Jennifer Hall.
Hans-Peter Belschmeyer.
John Charles.
Julie Dunn.
Christine Laming. Everyone's that excited.
Next comes the first big announcement of the day. The destination of leg one is going to be, here it comes, Uruguay.
This afternoon, what the skipper's doing is setting out how he wants to run the boat, how he gets people selected to do various jobs in the boat, who's going to look after the crew fund, who's going to deal with the families and friends and help with the blogs. And he's getting to feel, the skipper's already been through the background of the crew they're getting, and they will train some of them. So they'll know what some of them are like, but they're really getting a feel for their crew and trying to allocate specialist tasks to them. Same time, the crew are getting to know their skipper and getting to know each other. So there's a lot of information being imparted both ways this afternoon amongst the crews and the skippers.
It's not just crew members getting to know each other either. With the introduction of a supporters club for this race, family and friends get to meet each other too and discuss the common challenges experienced while their loved ones are away at sea.
Well, the race crew, they're off on these exciting journeys and they're leaving behind their friends and family whose lives are just going on every day as if it was normal, but they're missing that one person. So having these networks and other people who are also without that person while they're at sea means that they've got people to be in touch with, other people to talk about it, or generally just have conversations with and feel supported as well.
For the Clipper race staff, this is 3 months to go now till race start, and everything ramps up from here. Huge effort, but a really good day.
Coming up, we meet a new crew member impatient to get going.
A mixture of being absolutely terrified, but I'm so excited as well. So roll on, race start.
And the Clipper race teams travel to Liverpool for race start as they prepare to head off on this exciting adventure in the race of their lives. The Clipper Round the World Yacht Race is a 40,000-mile adventure for amateur sailors, many of whom had never sailed before their training. Over 700 crew will take part over the 11 months of the race, taking on the world's largest oceans in a journey that will test them to their limits. Many people have saved to join the race or raised the money through sponsorship after planning their trip for years. So there's excitement at the prospect of finishing this journey as an accomplished ocean sailor. At home in London, novice sailor Jennifer Hall explains what made her want to take up this challenge.
Probably about 2 years ago now. I had loads of big things in my life kind of change. So, for example, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. I split up from my other half of 10 years. I moved out of my home. I got promoted into quite a big job at work, probably a bit before my time. So all my kind of big security balls, if you like, in life had kind of all been sort of thrown up in the air. And I was really determined that, I guess, I wanted to grab hold of life and make the most of every minute that I had. And then secondly, I probably had a fear that about being loved again and actually wanting a sense of belonging. And at that time, someone asked me, if you could dream of anything crazy in the world, what would it be? And I just said to her, I think I want to go and sail around the world. And it was just that moment of, oh my God, wouldn't that be kind of amazing? And as soon as I'd said it out loud, it was like, right, how are we going to make this happen? So, everything's always one click away. So there I was, Google, off I went. And then you find out and you discover more about Clipper. And then before you know it, you're kind of on your training, you've met people, the skippers are brilliant. And then you're in, and before I knew it, I was in and I was sailing around the world. So I'm selling my car, which I'm absolutely devastated about. That probably is the one thing that, out of everything I'm going to leave behind, I'm gutted about. So if it's something you want to do, you will find the means of making it happen, because it's a life dream at the end of the day, and that's priceless. I've never sailed before. I'm a mixture of being absolutely terrified, but I'm so excited as well. So, I can't wait now. So, roll on, race start.
Liverpool, England. All 12 yachts are now berthed at the famous Albert Dock, and one by one, the crews are arriving to face their date with destiny and the start of this opening race. And the docks are buzzing with excitement as preparations continue.
So the crews on all the boats are all fully trained now. They've all done 1, 2, 3 and level 4 training with their own skippers. They're busy now this week preparing the boats, getting the victualling on board, last minute maintenance, and I guess sorting their own domestic stuff out as well for possibly 11 months at sea.
Well, what's happening today is that all the boats have been christened by their sponsors, and that'll be following through as other sponsors arrive in the city to see the start of the race on Sunday. And of course, this for the crews is the last-minute preparations, you know. Have I remembered toothpaste? Because there's no shops out in the oceans. So they're just thinking about what they've got to take with them. A little bit of apprehension, of course, that's healthy. I don't mind that. I don't want fear, but apprehension's a good thing. Just thinking of everything that they might have to think about. Just think ahead a bit.
There's the final mass crew briefing before departure, and the Clipper race team updates everyone on the weather conditions expected ahead, reminding them all of the key phases to come while underlining the focus on safety.
Quite early on Sunday morning, the Clipper race fleet are leaving Albert Dock. They'll be moving into Canning Dock, and they'll be exiting Canning Dock out into the River Mersey 10:15 and get ready for the race start. This is a great location. It's a great waterfront, so there's stacks of spectator viewing. The fleet will be really close to the shore, close manoeuvring, close quarters racing. It's going to be a great spectacle.
It's an early start for everyone, but there are large crowds of well-wishers, family and friends, hoping to get a front-row view of loved ones before they depart on this exciting adventure. As the departure ceremony looms closer, there's a last opportunity for hugs and kisses, with plenty of tears too, as emotions brim over. There's eagerness in the air as each of the crews are introduced to the crowds on a specially built floating stage in the docks. Huge cheers as the home team, Liverpool 2018, slips lines first and begins its around-the-world journey. With cheering, dancing and waving, all of the crews soak up the atmosphere as they head out onto the famous River Mersey to prepare for race start. Aboard the hometown yacht, Nano and teammates are relishing the moment as they hoist the mainsail for the first time on this epic journey. Skipper Lance Shepherd is there to guide them for what will be an intense start line on the river. Nano can't wait to get going.
I'm feeling so excited to be here in Liverpool starting this race with all my crew members that are becoming my friends. Just excited to go home. Skipper, take me home. I want to go home and see my mother.
As the countdown continues, for many aboard the yachts, literally years of planning for this moment comes down to the final few seconds. All of the organisation, the weeks of training, everything is behind them. Now they must focus on the race ahead.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And with a bang, the race of their lives begins.
Race start and the line is all clear, line all clear.
Over 6,400 nautical miles of ocean. Next stop, Punta Del Este in South America. A short course has been set out on the River Mersey in front of the famous Liver building to entertain the crowds lining the river. The sun is out, but there's only a light breeze, making progress slow, going against a strong tide. It's not the easiest of starts for these amateur crews, sailing on a narrow river in close company with 11 other identical 70-foot racing yachts. Despite the conditions, the crew of Garmin built a narrow lead, and Liverpool 2018 are up in the leading Group 2, with Sanya Serenity Coast close behind. It's a magnificent scene in front of this impressive city waterfront, with some of the yachts just a metre apart as they round the mark in this strong tide. Now the crews trim in the sails as they race towards the river mouth, the yachts leaning further as the wind increases in the gusts. and the crew of Liverpool 2018 are heeled over too, a taste of life aboard for the next few weeks. After completing the start course, the crews are soon into full racing mode as the wind begins to build and the riverbanks widen into the mouth of the estuary and the sea beyond, swapping tacks as they vie for the lead. With final looks back, especially for Nano and his team, the crews know that most will not return back to Liverpool until race finish in 11 months, after crossing the world's most challenging oceans. Aboard Liverpool 2018, James McPhee, who grew up in the Cayman Islands, has taken on the role of watch leader. An experienced sailor, he was a natural for this, having taken the decision to circumnavigate the world.
I started sailing when I was about 10 years old in the Cayman Islands. Just had lessons because both my folks sailed. Loved it, lots of little dinghies. Started with optimists, lasers, and then moved on to some like two-man dinghies. A little bit of racing, but not a huge amount. There's not that many people in Cayman to race against. And to go off-island to do any proper competitions is quite expensive. To do the Clipper, I've been dreaming about it for the last sort of 7 years, since I heard my first boss take part in a few legs. Been sort of saving and working towards it ever since. I like the team camaraderie of team sports and big team sports as well. Doing the best you can for the team in general, but I would also like to win. I think my focus in terms of like the competitive side is I like the idea of us pulling together as a team to become a really like slick pro or nearly pro team. One of the biggest goals of it for me is to become a circumnavigator and kind of have that on my repertoire, my sailing CV. I think the training from Clipper has helped a lot. We get a lot of time on the boat that get used to life on board. It's very active, it's very busy when you're on deck, and then you're so tired that you just sleep afterwards. So that's helped to calm those nerves a lot, that I think actually it's all gonna fly by faster than we imagine.
Coming up, the crews aboard the 12 yachts settle into their routines at sea in their first week of racing. But there's a sudden and dramatic change of plans for one team after a devastating injury forces them to suspend racing and head for land. The Clipper Round the World Yacht Race is underway, and the euphoria of the start in Liverpool has been left behind. The fleet of 12 identical 70-foot yachts is heeled over at 45 degrees, and the crews are battling for positions as they make their way out into the Atlantic Ocean, heading for South America, 5 weeks away. Racing from Liverpool, lighter than expected wind sees the teams all in close company. But it's the crew of UNICEF who create a narrow lead through the Irish Sea, followed by Sanya Serenity Coast, and visit Seattle. Just 20 nautical miles separate the entire fleet. It's an enthralling experience for everyone in the opening phase of this race. After 4 days, the crews are learning more and more about the strange new life they've chosen, and the usual system of what are called watches takes some adapting to, despite a taster during training. Most teams have adopted a 6-hour on-watch, 6-hour off-watch system, followed by 4 hours on, 4 off, and then 4 more back on watch again, through 24 hours a day. It's an exhausting pattern of sailing, sleeping, eating, and more sailing.
On these Clipper 70s, we split the whole crew into 2 watches to sail the boat is their main responsibility. But largely it's, keeping an eye on the course and direction. A big one is choosing the sail plan and being aware of any changes and fluctuations in weather and particularly the wind speed in case we need to put up bigger or smaller sails. Coming down in the trade winds and getting the spinnakers up and trying to get everyone kind of trained up on helming. I had 2 days of heavy concentration, glued pretty much next to whoever was on the helm, constantly telling them, up, down, on the winds, left, right, and kind of trying to explain how to sail a boat to the spinnaker. After the 2 days of doing that, I was absolutely knackered, but fortunately, guys were really starting to pick it up, and by sort of day 3, at least during the day, I could relax a lot and not really focus on being right next to them and such heavy-handed tuition.
The Clipper Round the World yacht race experience doesn't just consist of sailing the yacht. There are many different jobs that need attending to, and lots of aspects to life on board. Below deck in the galley, Nano is getting to grips with what's known as the Mother Watch.
Mother watch consists on going off watch, so you stop doing sailing things and you take care of your crew members. So you make breakfast for them, you then make a lunch, and then make dinner. Being mother watch is not so easy like it looks like. It depends on the degrees of the boat is heeled, of course. So we have here the oven and everything moves here. So try to keep everything steady. Sometimes it's a mess to do 3 foods for 24 people, but try to do it happy with music and with your bunk buddy. It's always there supporting you. So we have a lot of fun. I was lucky I have a good bunk buddy. We work really good together. We have fun. So really happy to be sharing these duties with him.
It's dinner time, and the crew are rewarded for all the hard work on deck. As the evening draws to a close before the night watch changes, Skipper Lance brings the crew together to update everyone with some shocking news from Clipper Race HQ.
Dave Hartson, the skipper of Greenings, has had an injury. Just had a phone call from the race office. A crush injury to his hand. So the Clipper coxswain's taken over the boat, and they're heading towards Vigo in Portugal to have him evacuated from the boat to obviously get medical attention. So we're on standby from the race office at the moment to possibly escort them back to Vigo. So they've got somebody with them to give them that warm fuzzy feeling of not being on the road.
It's a bitter blow for the crew aboard Greenings. Their skipper has been injured when helping to change a sail at night, and so they are forced to divert towards Porto in Portugal. They're over 400 nautical miles from land, and after receiving treatment from the onboard medic, the decision is that Skipper David requires an operation to his hand. The crew turn on their engines, suspend racing, and motor sail as fast as possible towards the shore. After a long night, the Greenings crew are closer to land, and the weather is calm enough for a helicopter evacuation of the skipper. A Portuguese Coast Guard spotter plane helps coordinate location and procedures with Greenings coxswain, Jeremy Hilton.
The diver goes in, we stand off no more than 100 metres, he will always be in sight of us with his AIS deployed.
Skipper Dave Hartshorn has been brought up on deck while he waits to be airlifted to hospital, as the crew make sure nothing on deck will be damaged by the helicopter's downdraft. The rescue services have asked that David drop into the water for the helicopter to safely collect him, given the height of the yacht's mast. He's in great pain, with his hand bandaged and wrapped in plastic. The crew wait nervously as he drifts away from the team he has nurtured and taught ever since crew allocation earlier in the year.
Victor 2-4, rescue aircraft calling.
With the yacht at a safe distance on standby, the helicopter heads in towards him. A rescue diver with a stretcher is lowered into the water. David is clearly protective of his injured hand and the swell caused by the powerful downwash of the helicopter. The swimmer has to get him onto the stretcher and secured. It's not easy. Now the crew have seen their skipper to safety, they must focus on sailing to Porto without him. As the Greenings team heads to shore, Liverpool 2018 makes the most of the improved winds, and the team have chosen to change to their Code 2 spinnaker to maximise their speed downwind, but have hit a problem.
Basically, the spinnaker's blown. We had a donut that went through it. That donut's just gone, so the spinnaker's gone right out there. Sheets have lost. As a result, we've had to raise the Yankee just to keep some power in the boat and to keep it under control. I've then jumped up on the bow, attached the sheet to the actual spinnaker tack, and then we've just pulled it all in and done an emergency drop.
Well, I'm sweating the energy fork over the pen.
The Clipper race crews are not just made up of round-the-worlders, but there are many crew who have decided to do just a single or multiple legs of the race.
I chose leg one because I really wanted to be involved in the race from the start. I wanted to be a part of it right from the get-go and have an opportunity to get to meet the team from the start, to not have to come in late, and just sort of be involved in the whole building process of what's going to happen on the boat. There are challenges to living on a boat for 5 weeks. For it's just sort of the little things like daily life and things that you would normally take for granted. So even just getting up and walking around, if you're on mother duty and cooking, just add an extra 20 minutes to whatever time you've allocated to cook. Obviously, joking around, but going to the heads whilst the boat is sideways is always a challenge. But I wouldn't say that there's nothing that's not great about it, because that implies that it's bad, and I'm not having a bad time. I really, really think that this is such a good experience, and part of the reason why I signed up was to have a challenge and to not live an everyday life. So all of these challenges, as much as sometimes they can be difficult, you take them in your stride and you hope that by doing so you're able to achieve something that's really cool.
As the rest of the fleet races away to the south, the crew of Greenings have taken almost 3 days to reach Porto in northern Portugal, where a new skipper will be joining them. They are met by Clipper race officials who have flown in to assist.
Guys that come up, welcome to sunny Porto. Well done.
Working together, the crew have brought the yacht safely to shore.
Well, the biggest challenge is we're 400 miles offshore, which is way outside the range of helicopters. So the agreement was that we were given a route by the Portuguese Coast Guards to sail towards the coast. And we found actually, though they've reported motoring, sailing was faster than motoring or motor sailing because we actually had good winds. And we maintained Dave's routine of the lunchtime get-together and discussion around the group. And it was really important for people to talk out their feelings and thoughts for what next, because I think the less experienced found it very, very scary.
While docked, the team take this unexpected opportunity ashore to catch up with loved ones back home and indulge in a few home comforts. It's also their first chance to be reunited with skipper Dave again, who is out of hospital after a successful operation which pinned his thumb back together after the terrible accident in the depths of the night.
The lazy sheet for the Yankee had come off the winch and was actually trailing in the water. So this is about 11 o'clock at night. The boat's doing about 16, 17 knots through the water. So pretty effective boat speed. I actually managed to get my hand on the lazy sheet. And obviously the drag in the water, it was like pretty loaded up, and got it in. And then unfortunately with this hand, got it into both hands, but this hand, the thumb, was around the top of the guard wire. Just as I was bracing myself to stand up, the spinnaker flogged and bang, it went. And then I licked my hands off from the rail, and all I could see was that I looked like I had 6 digits. I had my 4 fingers, clearly what was a bone, and my thumb. If you could imagine taking a cheese wire and then cutting it from the top of the finger down to probably down to about there, I allowed Miles to take me down below, and then the medics looked at my finger. And I've got to say, I owe the fact that I'm likely to be getting back on the boat soon, down to that initial reaction, and also the fact that the crew were able to then sail the boat to a point where the helicopter could come and pick me up. I was standing at the back of the boat, never really anticipating doing that you were going to actually step away from a boat that you're skippering with your crew, who are, at the end of the day, an amateur crew. Although they've had great training, they are an amateur crew, and you're the skipper. To jump into the sea and then to float away, yeah, that was quite a difficult thing to do.
It's been an emotional few days for all of the crew after seeing their team leader and mentor suffer such an unfortunate injury.
It's been tough. It's been really emotional. We're a really strong team. We were so excited about our ventures. Some of us, you know, who are doing around the world had shared dreams and hopes, and we've known Dave and built this team together, and there was nothing more in the world than we wanted to do it together as a team and share the highs and lows together. So that night, our dream, it kind of fell apart. It felt like it did. Sorry. He's been such an inspiration to all of us, and he gives us the belief as a team that we can go on and do brilliant things, and has grown the capability, the confidence, the spirit in the team, and he's a massive part of it. And you know, a lot of us reflected that night that without him, it was going to be, our dream was shattered. But David said to me, you've got to do it for yourself. Get back out there, put a positive front on, and go make it happen.
With the crew preparing the yacht for a swift departure, the time is near for Skipper Dave to hand over the reins to former Clipper race skipper and Deputy Race Director Dan Smith, who will be interim skipper to Uruguay.
For them, obviously, new skipper, and old skippers do things slightly differently, so we'll need to learn to work together. But from what I've seen, really strong team, and we won't have any problems. We'll do well together.
With fresh provisions loaded, it's a quick turnaround to get back into the race, so Dave has to once again wave goodbye to his crew as they slip lines and head back to rejoin the race.
It's going to be very hard for me. I know at the moment, 24 hours ago I was still getting over a 3-hour surgery in general anaesthetic, but it probably hasn't quite sunk in yet that they're going on without me. But it will be difficult, and I know that I'm going to get impatient to join the boat, but they'll do well.
They will motor back to the racecourse and continue, as they will be given redress for the time lost in the race. But with a new skipper aboard, how will they cope? And can they do enough to challenge for the lead?
What is the name of this boat?
Coming up, crew aboard each yacht must appease King Neptune as they make their crossing of the equator. Aboard Liverpool 2018, there is an act of treachery that cannot go unpunished. And there's tension and excitement as the fleet approaches the final stages of this long and dramatic race to Uruguay. The 12 crews on the Clipper Round the World yacht race are heading towards South America and getting to grips with the race of their lives, now in the mid-Atlantic Ocean. It's the first time many have experienced close contact with sea life, such as dolphins and whales, which can leave a lasting and memorable impression. All of them continue to learn more about how to get the best possible speed from their yachts, and have settled into the routines of the watch system and the never-ending demand of changing sails to match the prevailing winds. On the way to the equator, all of the teams pass through an area called the Intertropical Convergence Zone, what is better known as the doldrums. Here, baking hot weather and notoriously light winds are typical, which can leave crews becalmed for days on end in the stifling heat. Introduced for the first time in the last edition of the Clipper race, a doldrums corridor has been created, where the teams can choose to turn on their engines over a fixed period to help them negotiate the worst of the heat and light winds and stay on course for their designated arrival window in Uruguay.
We are just entered the doldrums corridor, and we are still sailing though, no motoring yet, which is great news. Coming from the Cayman Islands, I would have thought I was quite used to the heat, but on the boat there's just no break from it. Here, we can't really get in the sea, even though it's all around us. That's a bit frustrating in itself. And then, you know, up on deck with the sun beating down, really hot and sweaty. Down below becomes a bit of a sauna, especially when the mothers are cooking. And there's very little spots on the boat where you can get any relief at all. It starts to kind of make you a little bit cranky at times and definitely very lethargic.
Every day, the skipper of each team gathers their crew to discuss the sail plans and race strategy and address any issues that may arise while on board. However, today on Liverpool 2018, Skipper Lance has made a disturbing discovery.
I was called in today to act as a policeman to investigate the disappearance of some rations from the storage facility. And so I had my policeman's hat on for a bit, did a bit of investigation. It didn't take very long to find out who the main culprit was. Red. Yeah, so now we've got Haribo Gate.
Right, so I've just been stitched up. I've got my two little new buddies, Thelma and Louise. Basically, I was encouraged to go and get a packet of lollies, or two, out of a storage bag for my watch. I took them, and then I've been snitched on by someone. So I'll find out who that is. As a result, I've been punished. I have to keep Thelma and Louise with me, which are two raw eggs, at all times for the next 4 days. If I can't produce them upon reasonable request, I'll cop an extra 2 eggs on the head, under the hat. And I do like my hat, so I really don't want that to happen.
On the other offence of trafficking, Thelma and Louise...
These are the risks you take when you want to get extra lollies for your watch. But hey, that's what happens. You're going to break a couple of eggs to make an omelette.
Aboard the yachts, each crew member is allocated a special role whereby they are responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of certain aspects of the yacht to keep the team competitive. Helen has been given the job of sail repairer and is beginning to understand the limitations of working on frequently damaged, very large sails in the confines of an ever-moving 70-foot-long yacht full of people.
I did actually volunteer for the role. I'm beginning to think that might have been an error now. But yeah, I wanted to contribute as a round-the-worlder. I wanted to contribute more than just the sailing. And that was a role that did appeal to me. The practicalities of getting it done on a boat, getting that sewing machine out, finding somewhere stable to put it, even the little repair that we did, I think it was yesterday, it was really hard to find it in the sail once the sail's down. It looks small in the sail when it's up and miles away and flying, and you bring it down and you think, oh, that's huge. Just how big those repairs might end up being. Lance said something like, 30 foot by 9 foot. It's like, that's too big, I don't want to do it.
Moving ever further onwards through the race, one by one, each crew reaches and crosses the equator. It's a magical moment, passing from the northern hemisphere into the southern. What may go unnoticed in an aeroplane is a cause for celebration aboard an ocean racing yacht. Ancient maritime tradition dictates that every polywog, the name for someone who has never crossed the equator on the ocean before, should make a declaration before the mythical sea god, King Neptune.
Thought about
it. It's been 4 days, and Nick's punishment has finally come to an end. But has he been a good mother to Thelma and Louise?
I made it to 4 days. She had a slight bump.
It's all right, she's still held together. She hasn't fallen apart.
Anyway, I think it's time to sacrifice these to Neptune to try and get some wins.
After almost 5 weeks of ocean racing, it's incredibly close as the fleet converges towards the finish in what is the longest leg in Clipper race history. The leading 7 boats are all vying for podium positions. For Nano, aboard the Liverpool 2018 yacht, every mile completed brings him closer to his hometown, in his very first ocean crossing.
Well, it has been really exciting to learn all about sailing. I'm happy because when you challenge things, getting into the end is very good. It means you achieve the thing. I'm feeling really comfortable on the helm. I've been achieving good speed, constant speed. So that was the most enjoyable part of the learning. And it's awesome. Now I'm looking forward to arrive. I just want to arrive to my home, to enjoy my family, my friends, show my city to my new friends. So I'm going to invite all my crew.
It's the beginning of spring in Uruguay, and the popular seaside city of Punta del Este is starting to awake. There's excitement building ahead of the race arrival, and a huge welcome anticipated for local boy Nano. The crowds have indeed turned out and lined the fabulous harbour complex, welcoming the first team, the Chinese entry Sanya Serenity Coast, who crossed the finishing line in the opening race after 33 days of sailing. Skipper Wendy is naturally delighted at arriving first.
Yeah, it was quite challenging. This leg has predominantly been a little bit easy to me. That's what I've thought in the past. But this one's been really tough. One, because as you said, it was the longest leg ever. And 2, because we got the full spectrum of everything. So we had a lot of heavy winds, we had a lot of light winds, we had a lot of everything that we had to sort of deal with.
The next 6 teams arrive in rapidly changing weather conditions through the following day and night after completing the 6,400 nautical mile challenge. There's relief, exhaustion, and a massive sense of achievement as the crews take their first steps ashore again after so long at sea. Early next morning, Nano and the crew of Liverpool 2018 make their way towards the harbour, and his friends and family are there to greet him. His mother and father are the first to embrace him.
Let me go down. See my mother. Today, have my family here is awesome. I knew they were going to be waiting for me. I was really expecting everyone here. I didn't knew they were going to be pink and all those yellows. So I'm really excited. I want to hug them all more. I want them to meet my crew. So it was amazing. I will remember this forever.
With 10 teams in port, next is the crew of Greenings, who after their diversion to Portugal were given a time redress and sailed superbly with a fast finish.
We got on that boat, we were given a deadline of 5 o'clock to leave, and we left to sail, and we left to race. And it was a really interesting turnaround from the team. You saw the emotion that day from the team and saying goodbye to Dave. And as soon as we got on that water, Dan was like, right, we're off. And everyone just really stepped up and everyone's loved it. It's been brilliant.
Finally, all of the crews are reunited in port, and it's time for celebrations and the awards ceremony, hosted by the Punta Del Este Yacht Club, after an incredible sailing experience. Remarkably, with their time redress, it's the crew of Greenings that recorded the fastest finish time for the race from Liverpool and claimed first position, a result that nobody could have imagined after losing their skipper a week into the race. So it's winning gold pennants for the crew and a valuable 12 points towards the overall standings. The crew of Sanya Serenity Coast celebrate their second place on the podium, and it's the PSP Logistics team which takes third place. However, overall, after race 1, it's the crew of Great Britain who top the standings, having played their joker card, which doubles their points for finishing 4th, leaving the Greenings crew 2nd overall. Next time, the 12 crews take on the South Atlantic Challenge as they battle through storms on the way to Cape Town in South Africa. Then it's the infamous Southern Ocean sleigh ride across to Australia, which lives up to its reputation once again, with yachts damaged, a dramatic emergency, injuries, and a tragic loss for the Clipper Race family.